second guest is Sydney Sherman, who has written a book, You Are Not Alone. And her book deals with the afterlife, and I have a lot of questions for her. So Sydney, honey, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, Noreen. Thanks for having me.
Oh, yeah. Now, I want to know why you wrote this book.
Well, actually, there's several reasons I wrote the book. Obviously, I've been a medium since the day I was born. I've obviously been a medium since I was born. I didn't know that. And as I grew up and ran into many people, shared my experiences, they pretty much have all told me that I need to put it in words and put it in writing to explain to people what I saw and what I knew to be true for me. Because it was very different from what people were used to seeing and or hearing on TV. So that's what I did, and it actually has been doing very well, and I'm very proud of it.
Now, you said that you got this when you were a little girl. You had this gift when you were little. What happened when you were little? Were you seeing dead people and talking to dead people as well?
Well, yeah, and I didn't know that they were dead. My mother actually has pictures of me when I was a little girl sitting in a high chair holding my hands out to supposedly nobody there, or holding my spoon up trying to feed someone. But I had always seen people, and I just assumed everyone else could as well. It wasn't until I was in kindergarten and I had an experience where I was talking to one of my classmates outside, and another little girl came up and started talking to us. So my classmate asked me who I was talking to. And I explained to her, the little girl. And she said to me, well, there's no one there. And I said, yes, there is. And she called me stupid, and I called her stupid, as kindergarten kids do. And then I ran home crying to my mommy.
Oh, my God. And this happened all through your life, up until now, still going on.
Yeah. And, on the cover of my book is my grandfather. And he's an inspiration to me. He was Scott Indian. And he actually was extremely gifted. I am about a quarter of the ability that he has. And he's the one that actually that day took me outside and explained to me that not only could I see what I was seeing, but that others couldn't, and explained to me that they actually had passed away. And I needed to keep it quiet because people wouldn't understand. This was the 60s, and it's a much different time than it is now.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Does anybody else have the gift in your family?
My grandfather, his mother, and my youngest son.
Interesting. And your son can also see dead people and talk to dead people as well?
Yeah, he can actually do it more if he chose to. I really allowed him to make that decision as he was growing up. I didn't push it. He still has the ability to do so. He doesn't use it that much. Just recently, he's 26. He just told me that he wants to really start tapping into it again. And I support him on that. So
this is why you wrote the book then?
Yeah, I wanted to clear up a lot of the miscommunications and a lot of the misunderstanding about what occurs when we pass away. Most of us get our information from TVs and movies.
Right.
And let's face it, if we don't know things, we tend to make it up.
Right. So what happens to us when we die?
Well, actually, I try to explain it when I do my presentations this way. We are energy. We all remember going to school learning about law of conservation of energy, and there is no dispute about that. So when we pass away, we separate from the part of us that can get ill and can get injured and become sick and can no longer function. That is what we bury in the ground, or we go through a cremation ceremony. But that which makes us, that who truly was us, our energy, or some people can call it their soul if they choose, gets separated. And that stays here. That stays right here with us. As my grandfather would say, literally a step to the side. And they can still hear everything, see everything. They can interact with us every day. It's not them. They're not the ones that have the problem. It's us who have the problem. We just don't listen.
So is it... Okay, so now I always heard that you could be in a room and there'll be 100 spirits possibly in that room with you. But are these spirits anybody that are with you, or are they all related to you?
No, with me, if I'm in a room, I have my own spirits with me, and whoever else is in the room with me, they usually have 2 to 3 of their own people with them. And most homes that I go into have energies that are also in the home that have nothing to do with the family. They're either attached to the home or the site itself. So they're all over.
Why are people attached to their homes and to locations?
Well, because that was part of the life that they lived. They have an attachment to it because it's part of their memory. And chances are they don't necessarily always stay in that home. They possibly go with another loved one where they are as well, but they do return back to the site. And it's all because of memories, which they're normally used to. It's what they're used to seeing. It was a long time a part of their life. So, I would come back to my home to visit as well.
Now, okay, so I have a question about the afterlife. Now, there's so many stories about it. They're mediums, psychics, they all give different answers. Do spirits have free will?
Absolutely, but not like you and I do. When I do my presentations, I tell people, stop thinking of them as if they were us, because they're not. They don't have the same restrictions. They don't have the same needs, desires, wants that we do. They are energy. And so they have free will. They can do whatever they want. They can go wherever they want. They just do it in a different way than we do, because unfortunately, we still have these human forms and human traits that we have to deal with.
Now, also, there's another, there's other information about this as well, that psychics and mediums will say they're stuck in a location and they need help on moving on for them to go into the light. Is that true?
I can only speak to what I know to be true for me. I'm 50 years old and I've never seen that. There is no stuck here. There's no finished business. They come and go as they please. Being stuck someplace or having unfinished business, that's a human trait. It's not something that harbors us any kind of, harbors any meaning for us after we leave here. There's no anger, sadness. It's energy. That's all physical human traits that we have. They don't have that anymore.
I've seen it so many times on paranormal investigations. If we have a psychic or a medium with us, or this is when I used to do it, they would say, oh, the person is stuck, the spirit's stuck and they need help, they need to go into the light. And then they do some talking to them and say, oh yeah, they've been set free now, they've gone into the light. So that's not true.
I can only speak for myself. I have a hard time with that myself because, again, I know what I see and what I know to be true for me and how they appear for me. We are all different. We all perceive energy differently. But again, being that I am 50, and I am also a paranormal investigator for over 35 years, I think that somewhere in my lifetime I would have come against somebody who was troubled or stuck or anything like that. And so my belief system is no, they're not stuck here and they do not need help to find a light to move on.
Oh, that's good. That's good to know. So another thing, if a spirit is in a house, is there any way that you can get that spirit to move on or to leave your home? Can you make a spirit go?
You could. I mean, if they don't want to, they're not gonna. I mean, pretty much I tell people all the time, if you really, don't want them there, just explain to them that you don't want them there. But my question to them always is, why don't you want them there? If they're not doing anything to you, if they're not harming you, share your home with them. They can't do anything to you. I share my home right now with 4 other people who have passed away who have nothing to do with me or my family. They don't harm me. This was their home. I respect them. I would never think of asking them to move on.
Okay. So, and Cindy, honey, what about, how do we communicate with the afterlife if we can't see or hear them?
Well, and this is one of the things that I do when I do my education. I truly believe that every one of us has some type of ability. We just don't know how to tap into it. We just don't know how to use it. Some of us have a better sense of smell, or maybe possibly sight, maybe feeling, or hearing. Really what you need to start with is you need to start with a lack of misconceptions of what you think it's like to have an experience with someone who's passed. One of the first things I tell people is take everything you've seen on TV and in the movies and put them on the back burner. Because it's meant for entertainment purposes only. And, fear, and I'm thinking about it this way. If the physical body that they had, they no longer have, that's what, became sick, became ill, became aged, they no longer have that, and all that's left is a free energy, and it's a full and whole energy, then you're not going to have them coming back with blood dripping out of their head, or coming back looking like skeletons, or coming back looking like zombies or anything like that. It just can't happen.
Okay, what do we look like when we pass over?
We come back, if we come back to look like anything at all, we come back looking like ourselves younger. Keep in mind, it's for us that if they chose to come back in a particular form, it would be so we could recognize them. They have no need to look like anything anymore. So if they choose to, for us, so that we can recognize them, they will come back in a form, a whole form, looking just like they did when they were younger. Their hair is perfect, their face is perfect. They usually have nice little clothes on, and they look just like us.
So,
it's really quite incredible.
So they're presenting an image to their loved one, so they'll be recognized. But once that loved one has seen them, what happens to that appearance that they have? What do they turn back into?
They don't. They will always manifest in that particular, the way they looked for them. That's the way they're always going to look when they see them. I have seen some entities come back where they come back looking like they did, and then once the loved one acknowledges that, hey, that's mom or that's dad, then they don't always necessarily come back looking like a person anymore. The person may smell them or feel them touch their arm, or just gets the sense that they're near them. But it really is all for our recognition. They do not have any reason to look like a person anymore. So, when people send me photos all the time through Connecticut Ghost Hunters to review, and they send me pictures of an apparition that they call it, where they're always wearing white, because every spirit wears white. Apparently they don't have anything else to wear, and their hair is long and disheveled, and they're walking all crooked and stuff. Right away I know the photo is either superimposed onto the picture because somebody's been playing with the video editing tools, or they misunderstood what they're seeing, because a person who's passed away does not come back looking like that.
Okay, Cindy, do you believe in elementals?
Honestly, I haven't had the opportunity to have that experience, so I can't say yes or no. I'm open to the possibility that might be true, but I haven't had the experience.
What about demons?
And this is where I always freak people out. Again, being 50 years old, I think if there were demons, I would have seen one by now.
I would think so too.
The personality that we had when we were alive is the same personality that we've had when we passed, because that is who we were, more so even than the way that we looked. And so if you have a sweet, doting mother, she's going to be the same way when she comes back. If your grandpa was a pain in the butt, he's going to come back doing the same thing. So you can have a person who maybe has not had the nicest personality come back, and they can knock things off your counter or close and slam doors and things like that, but it's usually normally to get our attention. I've never seen a demon though, however.
Are there earthbound spirits?
Well, again, keep in mind that I see them literally like one step to the side, so technically I'd say all of them are earthbound spirits, because we're all here on Earth, and they're one step to the side. So I was raised Catholic, and I know what the Catholic Church taught us about the heaven and hell and all sort of stuff, but I know it conflicts with what I see and what I know. So I have a little bit of an issue with that. But I have to say yes, because they literally stand right next to us. So,
But they can go. I mean, they can come and go as they like. There's no spirit that's actually stuck here where they can't go to the other side.
well, no, they're not stuck here. And again, I don't see, and I've asked them where this other side is.
Mm-hmm.
They don't refer to another side that they go to. They are just where they are. And seem very happy there. And my grandfather used to do a really neat trick. I wish I could do it. But he would say that we walk into different realms. We walked in and out of realms all day long. We just didn't realize it. And he would take one of his hands and stick it out into the air as he was looking for something. And he'd pull his hand back, and his hand would be, like very pale and kind of bluish color. And then he'd do the same thing with the other hand and pull it back, and his hand would be very warm and red. To show us kids when we were younger that these are the different realms that we walk into every single day, in and out, and we just don't know it. And that's where they are. They're just in these different realms, one step to the side.
How many realms do we go to?
Oh, he said that, well, again, I can't see what he saw. He was awesome. He really was. But he said there's thousands. There's thousands of realms. And, I really wish I could see what he was seeing, but I can't. I know my limitations. But knowing when I see the spirits, when I see them, that they literally are standing right next to us, sitting down on the couch right next to us, they're in this realm. It's not up, it's not down, they're not stuck.
Okay, but Sydney, how can we? I still don't understand how we can communicate with them. With our loved ones.
I'm sorry?
How can we? I don't understand how we can communicate with our loved ones.
Well, again, it starts with patience and listening and getting rid of the misconceptions. So once you've gotten that all taken care of, you have to find out what works best for you. So I tell people to put themselves in a nice, quiet, relaxed room with no interruptions. The first thing I tell them to do is to see if they can call out their name, the person they want to come through for them, and to ask them to do something for them. Usually have something of theirs. If it was a man, maybe a tie. If it was a mom, maybe a piece of jewelry. Ask them if they can move it. Ask them if they can come close to them and touch their hand. And again, then I explain to them, you have to know what it's going to feel like to be touched by someone who's passed. If you watch TV, it's cold. You have cold breath coming out of your mouth. I see dead people. That's not true. They're warm. They're energy.
No. Oh my God. They're not cold. They're warm?
They're warm. They're energy. They're not cold. That's another misnomer from TV. But they're actually very warm. And they're not hot. They're not like they're going to burn you or anything like that. But they're very warm. And once you know what you're looking for, it feels like a closeness. If you've ever laid with your eyes closed in a dark room and all of a sudden just knew someone was standing next to you, like your personal space had been interrupted, it's kind of that feeling, the closeness, where you feel like you're all of a sudden surrounded and the air just seems different. You can actually feel them touch you. It's not the same weight as if like you put your hand on top of my hand, but there is a weight to it. And let me ask you something, Noreen. Have you ever had a familiar smell go by your nose and you stopped for a second and you thought, wow, that cologne smelled like something I remember?
No, but I have smelled cigarette smoke and I have smelled flower smells. And I've had, and we were doing a live broadcast one night. We were doing a show like this, and we were all smelling chocolate.
Okay, but we've all pretty much had an experience where we have smelled something that reminded us either of something or just, it was really weird for the environment and the smell shouldn't have been there. So what I tell people to do is say they have the smell of like the perfume that their mom used to wear, go buy them. Most people go on about their day, they go on about their shopping, taking care of the kids. I don't. What I do is if I can't see who it is, I say, no, Grandma, that smelled like your perfume. If that was your use, please come by me again. I'd love to smell it again. And wait and see if it happens again. And you know what? If it doesn't, it doesn't. But what if that smell comes back again? Then you say, oh my God, Grandma, that smells so good. Can you show me something else? It sounds like you're playing with them, but you're not.
But that's kind of scary because that reminds me of like doing a Ouija board or a seance or EVP sessions. To me, that's kind of scary. Like you might be bringing in, see, to me, another entity that shouldn't be here.
I always tell people I encourage EVP sessions. If you're doing EVP sessions, if you're talking to your loved one, if you're making it very clear that you're just trying to bond with them and start up a communication and a new kind of relationship with them, there's nothing evil, there's no evil intent behind that. So I have no problem with that at all. But again, you have to try this. Most people, and again, another analogy that I use is if the word red, comes into your head, chances are it's just going to go right out because you're so busy all day. Whereas if the word red comes into your head for no reason, just stop for a second and say, okay, why did the word red pop into my head? Who wants me to know about something red? And wait, and maybe you'll get something, maybe you'll get car. Oh, red car. Who wants me to know about a red car? And literally, it's as simple as that. Stopping for a second, you think you feel somebody standing behind you touch your shoulder, you turn around and you say, was somebody just touching my shoulder? If you were doing that, please do it again. It can't hurt. And I have people tell me, I've been doing this for many years, that this works for them. They've built a relationship with their loved ones that they've lost. They have a relationship with them every day. Not the same relationship, because we can't do that. And I'm not even going to pretend to tell people it can be the same. But it's a relationship regardless. And you brought up the EVPs. Those are perfect if you know how to do a proper EVP session. If you don't, then you're wasting your time.
So what's a proper EVP session?
Well, people do EVP sessions, and the first thing they neglect to do is to make sure that they know the normal sounds of their home, what the refrigerator sounds like when it kicks on, the traffic going by the house, what it sounds like when the heater kicks on, or anything else like that, because the tape recorder will pick up all of those and will magnify the sound. And you'll think that you're hearing something that you're really not. So you really need to isolate your surroundings and make sure you have the situation controlled, just like when we do an investigation. Then what you do is you set out to ask a question, and you wait for a response. You ask simple questions. You don't ask long-winded sessions, and you give them time to respond. If you get a response back, you have to repeat the scenario over again. You cannot take it verbatim the first time you get a response that what you got was accurate. You've got to ask again.
The same question?
The same question or the same type of question. So if I ask the question, is there a female in this room? And when I play the tape machine back, or I have one of those that you can listen to like right away on the spot, and I hear yes, I wait a few minutes and I turn and say, so you're saying you're a female?
Interesting.
And then I wait for the response again.
Interesting. Wow.
You got to be really careful. I've had people send me things all the time for review, and literally, it's the tiniest little sound, and it'll be like a little eek or a little bang, and they'll be, I had a spirit in my house. Well, first of all, you didn't recreate it, so you didn't go back to see what it could possibly be. And that's not what you want to get. You don't want to get a little tiny eek in the background or a tiny little bang. You want to hear them say, yes, I'm mom. Yes, I'm dad. I am here. You really want to hear them say something, and they will.
So, okay. So when you go out and do your ghost hunting EVP session, you're trying to connect with somebody that, the ghost that's haunting that particular location. Not necessarily a loved one. So when you're doing your EVP session, you don't know who you're contacting, or do you?
Well, I unfortunately, or fortunately, I'm very fortunate, but usually I do. When we get called into a house, 9 times out of 10, the person that's causing the activity in the home is a loved one.
Oh, interesting.
And the family member is just not paying attention. So I'll go in there. What I do is we send my group in first, and my group will go in and they listen to the homeowner, to the claims that are being made, and I stay outside. Then I go into the house and I walk around and I write things down and that I pick up and the names I pick up. Then we do our investigation. And at the end of the night, I have the homeowner, because they were with me when I walked around, look to see how close I came to the activity. And almost every single time we go, I can tell them who the family member is and what they're doing, and the fact that they're just trying to get their attention. And what I love is people calling us, you have to come into our home right away because we have a demon, and they're hurting us and they're breaking our furniture. So when we go to the site, the first thing I ask them is, okay, tell me how badly you were hurt and how much was damaged. Well, I wasn't really hurt, and yeah, they broke a cup. Okay, that's not a demon. That's a loved one who's trying to get your attention and you're ignoring them. So they may start by doing little, noises here and there, but if you continue to ignore them, yeah, they're going to slam doors and they're going to knock something on the floor, but they're not doing it to try to get, they're not trying to hurt anybody, they're trying to get our attention. We do a lot of education. I do a lot of education as well.
Wow. There's a question from Tim. He wants to know, do you think it's possible that a negative entity could show itself to you in a different way?
Do I think? Well, first of all, I'd be the first one to say that anything is possible because people don't believe what I can do is possible. Again, I don't believe in negative energies. I don't know how to honestly answer that question. The only first of all, we all have negative energy. Whenever we're sick, whenever we're ill, whenever we're having a bad day, that's a part of negative energy, which can result in poltergeist type activity. So I'll take the question from that direction. Do I believe that negative type of activity that we set off ourselves can manifest into somebody? Yes, I do believe that. But as far as a separate negative energy, I have no knowledge of that and I haven't experienced it, so I really can't answer to that part of it.
So, can a ghost manifest itself to you?
Can a spirit manifest so that I can see what they look like?
Yeah.
Oh, every day, absolutely, all day long.
Really? Now, what about other, us? When we say, okay, show yourself, make yourself known. Can they do that if they want to?
They can, unfortunately, and they do. Unfortunately, that's usually our inability to be able to see them. And I write about in my book, which is actually pretty cool. People call this a gift. I don't call it a gift. They've done a lot of research, and I've done a lot of research into people who are supposedly gifted. If you ever heard of the hippocampus of the brain, it's like sits dead center in the brain. And it helps figure out what people are seeing and hearing. It's one of the things that it does. It helps figure out and tell the brain what exactly is going on with all of our senses. That sometimes is 2 times larger in size than the normal brain. Norepinephrine serotonin levels, which are used for mood enhancement, stimulation, we all have them, but it's also used as a neurotransmitter for our senses. And sometimes the blood levels of people who are quote-unquote gifted, they have 2 to 3 times the normal norepinephrine and serotonin levels. So if it is in fact true, which the evidence seems to show as of right now, that the person who's gifted has a larger hippocampus of their brain and their norepinephrine serotonin levels are 2 to 3 times larger, then it really is simply just biological. So if that's the case, you may not be able to see them, and it is very difficult to see them. Even taking pictures of them is almost impossible to get. But that's why I tell people, use the other alternatives you have. You can hear them, like you said, EVPs, if you can't hear them with your ears. You can absolutely feel them once you know what they feel like. But the best thing is to ask them to show you to do something. Move something for me, shut the door for me, knock this over for me, knock on the wall for me, repeat it again. That's the best thing that we can do.
So, Sydney, do they need your energy to do this?
They do use your energy, but they do have their own energy as well. But usually most of the time they'll use energy in the environment and their own. But sometimes to get a little boost, yes, they will use some of your energy, but you'll never notice it. It doesn't affect you at all.
So, do you have anything to say about psychics and mediums? I don't know how many are for real or not. How can you tell if someone is real, if there's a real psychic or a real medium?
Oh, Noreen, you're wonderful. In my book, I have a chapter called The Reader. I give readings, okay, but a reader is really a negative connotation for somebody who's a fake. And I have a whole chapter on it, and it's actually pretty disgusting if you ask me. You actually can recognize them pretty well. You have the little readers, and they're the ones that get information from you that you just don't even realize that you're giving them. I'll give you an example. I went to someone for a reading. A friend of mine said, you have to go. She's just like you. So I'm like, oh, yeah, I'd like a reading too. So fine, I'll go. And I went, and first thing she did was hand me a little index card. And on the index card, the questions were, who are you here to see? Who passed away? What relationship were they to you? How long ago they died? What did they die from? And I looked at her, I says, why do you need this? And she says, well, I need to help you connect. I'm like, okay. So, of course, I put down my grandmother, and lo and behold, my grandmother came through. How do you like that? And so after 10 minutes of her nonsense, I told her to stop, and I told her, I says, you know what, I'm not going to pay you a dime, and I'm going to give you a reading, and you're not going to pay me. And so I set forward to give her this very intense, very personal, not general reading. For her, she started crying, and she says to me, oh my God, you're real. I says, I am real. I says, now I told you, I'm not going to charge you, and you don't have to pay me for today, but what you are going to do is you're going to stop doing this today. You're going to stop preying on people's raw emotions and taking their money and lying to them. You're going to stop, because it's disgusting.
Oh my God.
Well, yeah, I didn't really make a dent in her because she's still in business today.
I'm not surprised. I haven't had one psychic give me a correct reading, not one.
And that's the shame. Unfortunately, first of all, there's a lot of me out there, but unfortunately, I was just recently on a live TV show, and it was myself and another woman, and I feel bad because she was giving these people readings live on the air. And, the people knew they were live on the air, so they didn't want to disagree with her. But off camera, they all came up to me and said the same thing. I had no idea what she was talking about. She was completely wrong. I don't have a mother. My mother is still alive, and she's not dead. And so it's really a shame that they do this. But one thing I can tell people is when I give readings to people, I tell them, don't tell me anything, not even your first name. I don't want to know anything. I usually don't look at people when I'm giving them a reading, because people's emotions on their face, their eye furrows, their jaw clenching, their grasping at their hands, that all gives a reader an indication on whether they have a hit or not.
Oh.
Also, what they do is they do a stare down. They'll say something and they'll stare at the person. Now, nobody likes awkward silence. So you say something, and you turn around, you give them information you don't even realize you gave them. And there's so many little tricks that they use. I don't know if you've seen people, they do them in group segments where they pick out a group of like 30 people in an audience, and they say, someone in here had a gentleman who died from a cardiac illness. Yeah. Well, law of averages, and if they study their medical diseases very well, they know that there's a very high percentage of men that died from some type of cardiac related disease. So of course you'll have maybe 10 people raise their hand, and then he'll say, and the death was quick, they died right away. Well, statistics shows that probably 80% died very quickly. So 5 people put their hand down, 5 people still have their hand up. It's the law of averages. Mm-hmm. They're using percentages to find out, to give you the answer you want to hear, and you think they picked you out of the audience, and they didn't pick you at all. And it's absolutely, it's very disgusting the way that how well they study people's behaviors, and they study people's responses right down to cultural names. That's my favorite chapter, and people say it has helped them a lot. They've actually brought the book with them to readers, and within 5 minutes realized that the person was a fraud and walked out.
Wow. I have another question from Tim. He wants to know about dog and cat spirits.
Oh, I love dog and cat spirits. Yes, they have energy just like people, and they will run around houses. They'll show up with other spirits, and they'll show up with their old owners who are still alive.
Oh yeah, I've seen mine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they are so cute, and they run around, and I like the noise when they make when they bark though, because it's not a normal bark, but it's still a bark. It's just kind of muffled.
Oh no, see, I've seen my dead cats, but I've never heard them. And you know, how come they'll come around and then after a while they stop, you don't see them anymore?
Who the
The
animals?
animals, the dead animals, yeah.
Oh, I don't know. I've always seen them. I've never seen them go away. But that again, could be that maybe they go off with somebody else. One of the things that I didn't tell you, which is actually pretty cool, is like I said, my grandfather taught me everything I know. He was my best friend, and but I had a great relationship. Not so much with my brothers and sisters. I was closer to him. And when he passed away, the natural assumption would be then that he would be with me after he passed. He has not been with me not one day since he passed in 1981. He's with my brother in Louisiana. So the only time I get to see him is when my brother Ronnie, once every 10 years, comes to visit. And so I have a list of questions in my pocketbook. Every time I think of something that I want to know, that I want the answer to myself, because, you know, I have questions too. I keep a list in my pocketbook. So, you know, as I can't answer for people when they come to me for a reading, say, I was really hoping my sister would come through. If I can't answer for myself while my grandfather's not with me, I can't, unfortunately, answer for you why maybe your sister would not be with you, or why, you know, your cat might show up for a little while, or, you know, and then leave. I don't know.
What about reincarnation?
I don't know. I want to believe in it. The jury's still out with me on that. But if we go back to the energy that we all are, the law of conservation of energy, if energy can't be created or destroyed, then our energy technically was already always here. So that leads to the question of, where were we before we were we? Which
Yeah.
kind of blows people's minds, and I use this in my conferences all the time that I do. But seriously, before you were Noreen, where was your energy? Was it just hanging around waiting for you to be born?
Yeah, where was it?
I don't know. So that's why I hold that out, I will hold that open to possibly that reincarnation does exist. If I can rationalize something, or if I can make sense of something, I will believe it. I don't believe in nonsense.
Well, I used to be afraid of dying, but since I got into the paranormal field, that's when my views all changed. And it's really sad to hear some of my friends and relatives don't believe in life after death, that they believe that when you die, and that's a horrible thought.
You know, it is horrible, and that is one of the other reasons I wrote this book, because people were thinking that that was it. And I am, if not for anything else, if I don't do anything else for the rest of the time I have here on this planet, I have convinced more people in the last, say, 30 years that there is more after this. You know, we do still see, we still hear, and we still interact with our loved ones. We don't miss a trick. And as I tell people, our energy spirits that are around us all the time, our loved ones, they see us do everything. They don't miss anything. And when I tell you they see everything, I mean they see everything.
The spirits see everything?
Yes.
They do?
Yes.
But they can't form an opinion, can they?
No, there's no opinion.
Thank God.
No, there's no opinion, there's no judgment. And again, you've got to remember, if let's just say that I was using the bathroom and you walked in on me, well, you and I would both be mortified, because we're humans and that's just how we are. It's not the same for them anymore. It's not the same. So
thank God. I used to have one taking a shower with me. I would be taking a hot shower and I would get my paranormal chills. And oh my God, is that a weird feeling to be cold and hot at the same time?
Don't worry, they're not going to be handing you bar soap or anything like that.
Thank God.
They literally are with us all the time. And I actually find great comfort in it. Ever since I was a little child, my loved ones stand around my bed at night when I sleep. And, you know, so it brings me a lot of comfort. For some reason, about 2.5 years ago, for the first time and only time in my life, I had nobody, and I have no answer for it. I was standing around my bed just one night It was probably the worst night in my life. I was upset. I was anxious. I had anxiety attacks. I could not sleep. And so it's almost the opposite for me, because when I tell most people that their loved ones probably stand around their bed and watch them at night, they get all freaked out. Whereas for me, I find that comforting.
I have two questions for you from the chat room. Where do you do private readings?
Yes, I do.
Okay, how do they get a hold of you?
They can go to my website, and there's a little place for contact, and they can just write me a little email. It goes right to my normal email.
What is your website?
It's www.sydneysherman.net, and that's Sydney with a Y.
And the other question is, are spirits intelligent?
I don't know how smarter than we are, but yeah, yes, they are. They don't lose their intelligence. They are smart. They can figure things out. They know that they've passed. Yeah, they have a leg up on us. They seem to. Now, there's one thing that I can't get them to do. I can't get them to tell the future. They talk about the here and now, and they talk about things that they did in the past that are validating, that people would know about.
Oh, so they can validate.
You know what? That's why when I hear some of these things, I will not watch any of the shows on TV, the mediums or psychics or anything else like that, because I just get really, not all of them, I'm sure that some of them are good, but I mean, most of them I get annoyed because they use such general information that can apply to just about anybody. Like some days you have good days, some days you have bad days. Sometimes I think you don't like your job, and sometimes I think you like your job. They don't talk about stuff like that. To give you an example, I had a woman here the other day who the grandmother says to me, who's passed, I have this turkey platter that I used every single year for Thanksgiving, and, it was one of my favorite things to use, and she got it, and she has it in a box stuffed under her bed, and she never uses it. So I said to the granddaughter, your grandma wants to know why you're not using this turkey platter, or why you have it stuffed in a box under the bed. And the girl says to me, well, it was something so special, it was beautiful, and I don't want anything to happen to it, so I put it in a box. And she goes, wait a minute, how do you know that I have the turkey platter of my grandmother's under my bed? I said, I don't. She does. And that's the validating kind of statements they make. They talk about how fat our rear ends got. They talk about the birthday party you just had and who didn't show up. It's actually amazing the stuff that they come out with, but that's how it's supposed to be.
Wow. Okay. I have one more question before we need to close the interview. Is there a heaven?
Wow, I knew you were going to ask me that. Okay, again, being raised Catholic, I was taught about heaven and hell. I have asked my loved ones about heaven and hell. They do not respond. They do not refer to heaven or hell. And they don't refer to, because I get this question too, a God. Now, let me tell you where I have a problem with all this. I don't have a problem with the heaven or hell part. I really don't. Because I know where I see them, and I see them right next to us. I have a problem with the God thing because I truly believe there's something greater, that there's a greater power, and I call him God, that oversees, what's going on, and who's made us, and who started the whole thing. So, just in case that question ever came up, I can't answer the heaven and hell. I can tell you that they did not discuss it, and I have asked. So, and I can say something else if you don't mind.
Oh, yes, please.
Which brings people a lot of comfort. Being raised a Catholic, one of the things we were always taught is if you commit suicide, it's a mortal sin, a cardinal sin, and you're going to go to hell because you sinned against God.
Right.
I have given so many readings to so many people whose loved ones who've committed suicide have come through, and they are right with everyone else. They're not up, they're not down, they're not sad. They come in the same area with everybody else. They're all whole, they're all happy. And that, to me, is very, very important. It goes against what I was taught, but I'm sorry, it's what I see, and there's no need for this nonsense of people getting all sorts of upset and everything with the loved ones that are left here thinking that their loved one is in hell. And it just doesn't happen that way. They're right with everybody else.
Awesome. I have another question in chat from Debbie. She says, Sydney, when I received my gift after my near death, I was so scared and could not get it to stop. Then I decided to accept it, and I was able to control it. Is there help out there for people that get new gifts that are scared of it?
Actually, yeah, there's, oh God, if I can remember the name. Well, actually, I can help. I mean, I actually do teach classes to young kids and to adults and teenagers on how to be able to work with their gift, use their abilities, be able to control it so it doesn't interfere with their life, how to recognize what type of gift they have, because everybody's gift is different. So if she wants to go to my website, I'm more than happy to just do a private free chat with her and just, you know, see everything I can do to help her out. It is rough. I mean, I was born with it. I don't know any different. But I have parents bring their kids to me all the time that don't have the help that I did. And I have no problem helping anybody because it can be an absolutely wonderful experience, but it can be pretty scary if you don't know what to expect.
Wow. Geez, Sydney, it was such a pleasure to have you on the show tonight. I'm just in awe of you, and I guess I'm going to have to get a hold of you. I'm so happy to know that about the afterlife, and I would love to have you back on the show again. Maybe next year you'll come back because there's more questions I have for you.
I would love to. By next year I'll have the second book written.
Oh, what's your next book?
Well, the next book is going to be on how to recognize gifted children and help them through it, and it's going to come with a book for the parents, so the parents understand the process, and it's going to come with an illustrated book for the kids, so the kids can read along with the parent and understand a little bit better.
That's awesome. Well, again, thank you, Sydney, so much. Do you want to give them a website where they can get your book?
Yeah, right now they can get my book on the hardcover. Actually, it's not a hardcover, but the actual book on the www.sydneysherman.net. It is available on Amazon and all the other downloadable places for your Nook and your Kindle, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, all those other places. And for the Connecticut Ghost Hunters, it's www.ctghosthunters.org.
Well, Sydney, thank you again so much for being my guest tonight. It was such a pleasure to have you on the show. Extremely interesting information. Thank you, Sydney. Thanks, everybody, for joining the show tonight. Do you believe? And we will see you on the next show. Thank you so much for joining us. Good night, Sydney. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Good night.